you. Good to see you.
You as well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Blake, I'm glad you're here today. Blake is the founder of BMG Media. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is, I'm finding that the current market that we're in, people are really realizing that they are behind the times, that, they not only need to get out of 2005, 2008, 2010, they got to get current. And innovation is a driving force now that has taken them to to just new perspective on where they are. So can you talk a little bit about, at BMG Media, what you're seeing as it relates to companies, becoming more innovative today than they were 8 weeks ago?
Absolutely. So predominantly, as you know, our company does custom web development, graphic design, creative design, branding, all that good stuff, which, we obviously like to stay advanced. And a lot of our clients, we bring them to a more advanced, look and feel and implement technologies they can use. So it's really funny, early on, you see the medical field specifically, which are notoriously a little dated, especially in their websites and stuff that we do for new, fresh doctors. They're still dated with the technologies they had. And that was our first sign of the rush of healthcare professionals that came to us that owned private practices mostly and said, hey, we're going to telehealth or telemedicine. Yeah. And it was funny, within 1 week, we had like 10 calls. And, the reason they call us is not to implement the telehealth system, but, hey, we need this link on our website, or what do we do to market it? So it was a really funny shift. It was probably for the better. They needed to do it. They just needed that kick in the butt to actually get it done and be forced. So, as terrible as the times are, there's good that's coming out of it from an opportunity standpoint. I think the brighter side of this is people are forced to use new technology. I think it's made it way more convenient and safer, obviously, is a new keyword that people are worried about today. But it just, from an efficiency standpoint, even in the restaurants, we see that they're becoming more efficient with carryout, what they've never done before. Some of our clients are doing record numbers in carryout, and they had no business in carryout before.
Right.
So, and again, they come to us to say, hey, what do we do? Online ordering, e-commerce, how do we update and market our website? So these are the things that are, we're seeing day to day.
I love that. I want to talk about, you said this was kind of the kick in the butt they needed. It's interesting, as a business coach, one of the things I see in companies is they've been talking about things for years. How do we, innovate? How do we, give our company a facelift? How do we, work remotely? How do, there's so many elements of it. And in this case, everyone had about a week to prep, not prep. And yet it shows kind of the human spirit and the business spirit, how quickly we can adapt. And so I just want to talk a little bit about adaptability, because I think I do a lot of time management, training, and we waste so much time just talking about what we're going to do. And then until we are pushed to do it, right? So I would imagine your business is probably ramped up, right? You're always busy.
Oh, yeah.
You do amazing work. I know a lot of the work that you do, and I've known you for a long time, and I've been following you for years before that. And so talk about a little bit more, that kick in the butt and the adaptability, because I think there's a level that people need to say, okay, I'm comfortable here, but they really need to be here.
Right.
Yeah.
So, obviously, being a digital business, we were kind of lucky in the fact that working remote and all that stuff was already in our blood. So we were able to transition right away. Now, our clients that came to us, how do they adapt? Right. So we were able to see it on the other side that, we probably wouldn't have experienced otherwise. And, what we're seeing mostly is, how do these guys adapt to the new norm or the temporary new norm? And that might be in a restaurant, the cleanliness, or, what's going to psychologically make people feel safer. We have a major push now with, I guess DoorDash and the delivery services did this recently, but people want to know when their delivery's there, nobody touched it, or it was sealed properly. And I just saw Hilton put on their doors, which I thought was amazing, break the seal because this room has been disinfected. So all those different things, from a design standpoint, they're coming to us now saying, what do we do next, right? Touchless menus. How do we update so that somebody uses their own device and not their not have to touch a menu or reuse a menu. It's pretty crazy, but that kick in the butt really is now starting, you see it because they have no choice but to change. If they don't, they're basically putting themselves out of business because their customers won't feel comfortable with them.
Right.
Back to the Hilton thing, I would probably be the first one to say, think twice before I want to stay in a hotel, as stupid as that might sound. But now that I know that it was disinfected and there's a seal that I have to break before I get in the room, psychologically, I feel 100 times better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that translates to everything: food, your dentist, your doctor, opening up a fresh pack. I mean, all that stuff is really the kick in the butt people needed to transition to, newer technology, automation, just more convenient services where you use your own personal devices and personal equipment to, I guess that community touch and feel thing might be a thing of the past.
Well, I don't know if I hope it's not a completely thing of the past, but at least for the near future. But I hear what you're saying. Like, even as I hear you say this about Hilton, it has changed my perception of that in a major way. Because now I'm a little bit closer to thinking, okay. I mean, but I think places are going to start to be cleaner than ever. I mean, my family have been pretty isolated for about 2 months.
Yep.
And we're kind of easing that up a little bit right now. But I went to the chiropractor this morning because I had to go.
Oh, I'm on that list. I need to go too.
But I mean, I really haven't been anywhere, but everybody had a mask on. The waiting room was set, so you had to do social distancing. They were washing down the things where you sit. They took my temperature when I got there. I mean, it felt so clean. It felt so safe.
Right.
And I feel like at some point we all have to be venturing out. But I want to comment on on just the idea of innovation for a second, because pre-COVID, I had been studying a lot of the following in quick summary. That by the year 2030, 85% of the jobs that will exist do not exist today. And by the year 2025, 75% of the global workforce will be millennials. And in 2027, about 51% will be freelancers. And I think this has accelerated a lot of that.
Totally.
And I think we're going to see so much change, and adaptability is what colleges were already kind of in the mode of teaching. Adaptability, because they were having trouble figuring out, how do we teach to a job market that we don't know exists yet?
Correct.
So just dive a little bit more into innovation, because there's a website, right? And you guys are masterful at what you do. But there's a website, and then there's utilizing it for e-commerce, interacting with your clients. I mean, there's so many innovative ways. And so what are you seeing not only now, but over the next 1 to 3 years?
Absolutely. So I'll use like the restaurant industry. I think they've gotten hit the worst out of most industries. And let me tell you what we're doing there to innovate. So until people, want to go back to the restaurant, you talked about social distancing and all that stuff, right? They have to reinvent their square footage and optimize. So how does that start? Obviously, online ordering has been around for a while, and reservations. Now, they always had walk-in business. Everything's by appointment only and reservation only for the most part. Curbside pickup, is so convenient, and I actually hope it stays. It's amazing, right? So talk about your website, and the marketing. All that stuff is ordered through your website or apps that we're, pushing out for our clients. So you're able to order everything, see everything, and get it delivered to you or pick it up. Amazing. And again, this stuff existed. It's now everybody's doing it. So more of the culture is going to be around, hey, go right to the app and just order. It's the easiest thing. Right. So, on the millennial side, the younger side, I think most of them were utilizing it. But now you get the older generations too that are going to be forced into using it, which gives them that, kick in the butt we talked about.
Yeah.
I think removing touch points.
Can I comment on that just before you move on?
Yeah.
I think the app, Beyond Juice. I love Beyond Juice. I actually interviewed them yesterday.
One of our clients.
So their app, Majo and Pam, they were great. Interviewed them on a live yesterday with Randy Denhoff. And,
one of my clients.
I order more food off of their app than I would if I was in person, because I can click, I can be high maintenance, low maintenance, whatever it is, but it is great. And I just want to say, I just want to say, so my family, we have been not carried out at all for 2 months, but we just started. We got Commonwealth the other day and Buddy's Pizza the other day.
Yep.
And they were amazing.
Yeah, it's a new, the pizza gets delivered and they leave it there, right? It's pretty interesting the things that are changing, and that app you're talking about for Beyond Juice is amazing. We work with that company. We're rolling it out for 2 more restaurants in Birmingham actually, and they have a huge uptake in conversion, and the reason is the beautiful images. So when you can see something, you kind of order with your eyes at that point, and surprisingly, a $20 average ticket might go to 30, 35 that easily. And that's what these guys need to do to innovate. Another thing we're doing is we're removing the touch points from the waiters and waitresses. Obviously now, imagine the situation 3 months ago, you would sit at a restaurant, you would order, you'd order a drink maybe, you're waiting on your food, you're done with your drink, you have to wave down the waitress, it's a little awkward, you're waiting, hopefully somebody comes by. So we're implementing texting systems inside the restaurant where you scan your QR code on the table, and although you might still order from the waitress or waiter, you can then text and say, hey, ready for another drink, or surprise birthday and I want a dessert for my friend, or send a bottle of champagne to the table over there. Right. So if you think about it, we're making the waiters and waitresses more efficient. It's less touch points from the standpoint of them waiting to come over. And we're seeing that it's not necessarily robotic, but the automation actually increases the amount of revenue a restaurant can do because it's instant. They're not walking back and forth and stopping at 3 tables on the way, potentially forgetting what you ordered or messing up an order. Everything's right there. And, the phase 2 of that is your bill is going to come to your phone, and you can, choose to, right? You still have the traditional way of whatever you want to do, but this would be a new way of just saying, okay, I'm done eating, pay on my phone, review my bill, and I'm ready to go. So it's not, the kick in the butt, again, we go back to that was, yes, it makes it more cleaner and you're using your own device and all that stuff. But assuming that that's not a huge push point in the future, just the convenience of not having to wait and being able to have everything on your own device right in front of your face, click one button, like Amazon, it's so easy to order. You end up ordering more, right?
Oh yeah.
So this is already a proven.
I just want to say this. And then, you ordered this? Well, 15 people in the restaurant who ordered this also ordered this, right?
Totally. And it's so funny because Amazon's already proven this. And the biggest thing for local restaurants and smaller guys is technology makes so much sense. It's too expensive to implement, but now it's not, right? So as long as these, we can get it into these restaurants for a nominal fee, make everything more efficient, they have a better chance of survival, and you're still providing jobs and getting more revenue for your restaurant, which trickles down to everything. You can pay your rent again, you can pay your utilities, all that stuff.
I love that. Well, what you're talking about now, which I love, is price is not a barrier to entry. But what is a barrier to entry is your mindset, and what is a barrier to entry is the team of people, the waiters, the waitresses, the staff that create the ultimate experience for someone. Absolutely. And so the training of that. But I want to talk about, as you're talking about, price is not an option. I wanted to, because I think too many people look at this and they say, okay, I need this. I need to be forward thinking. I need to get current. But then there's the looking at it as an investment versus an expense. I could, and I've talked to you about this. I used to be in the internet business, back in 1995, I started an internet company. And it was always, even back then, we could quantitatively show someone, right, how this makes sense. And I think you can even more so absolutely today. But I think in most things in business, people miss that. I know I see in companies, they're not looking quantitatively long-term as they forecast and project and just and they're not listening to the customer. So to the person who's listening now or later when they listen to this, how do they look at it as your services, which are so important, as an investment versus an expense?
It's funny you say that, and this is a talking point in a lot of our meetings. I always say the guy that wants to spend less than, for us in our company, the guy that wants to spend less than $5,000 on his website, no matter what, talking about the mindset, he's looking at it as an expense.
Yeah.
The guys that spend 10, 20, 30, hundreds of thousands, some of our clients, they look at it almost like an art piece, right? You handle it, it's an asset to us, and let's see how it helps us move in other areas. So the hardest thing for people to realize is the website is mostly your nucleus. Everything else around it is, brings it full circle. So that's just one piece of the puzzle. And if you're missing that piece, you can never finish the puzzle.
Right.
So that's always the starting point, for the most part. And in investing in your website and your digital experience, if nothing else, if one person looks at your website and says, you know what, I like this business, it looks legit, you got a customer. So what is that worth? Right. And every business is different. But I always say, imagine you're a heart surgeon in today's world and I need an immediate heart surgery. And I look at 3 heart surgeons' websites. And if one guy might be the best in the world, but if his website sucks, no chance I'm trusting him.
Yeah.
Right. It's all psychological. And the best guy might be the worst. Right. So, I mean, obviously that's where review sites and different things come in, but it's just all perception. And that's the key. So you have to look at it like you're proud of it, not an expense. It's a piece of art that you're proud of, that you want to show off, and you're using to the full advantage that you should. And the key, especially with websites, is doesn't matter if your company's worth $1 million or $100 billion.
Right.
Your website can always make you look worth bigger than you are,
Correct.
and no extra expense.
Right. I love that. And, and for me, as a business coach, I always look at things as what's one idea worth. Right. Yeah. So like if you have a client, and just to expand on your point, what's a client worth and what's the lifetime value of a client and the referrals that they give you? And to your point, it is art. It is art. Yeah. And I think sometimes people get stuck in the science of it. And you have to marry the art and the science because you can't have one without the other.
Agreed. Yeah. And look, a lot of times we get customers who say, hey, it's not right for us for whatever reason. But a lot of times what happens is they're so impressed that their friend needs a website. They recommend us because it might make more sense for them. So that lead that we potentially lost ended up turning into a gain.
Right.
So every customer that visits your website is a potential customer long-term, even if they say no today.
Right. So I want to kind of talk about websites even more, because to me, I think one of the things that what's happening right now in the current market as we record this on May 21st, is this is a time to double down, triple down, quadruple down on your brand, your content, yourself, and giving. Right. I'm a big believer. If you go to my website, it's filled with hundreds and hundreds of podcasts and blogs and just tons of resources to give. You have the same philosophy, right? Give. And now people need more. They need more content now, right?
Yes.
And so talk a little bit about that, about the importance of, ever changing a living website. Because some people, I'll put a website and I didn't realize I didn't update it, and it's years. The idea of a living website.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you this: there's some companies where it might make sense, right? You don't have to change your website for 10 years because purely informational doesn't help you. Small minority, totally get it, right? Doesn't mean you can't make it look great, but it's there to serve one purpose as a brochure because you just need your phone number. Understood. Other companies, what happens is,
by the way, I just want to say, I don't understand that because because that shows that you are complacent. That shows that you are not current. That shows that you do
well. So those guys, I'll tell you, are mostly the guys that have so much work and they're comfortable that they don't want to grow and they couldn't take another lead if they wanted to. So I get it. I respect it.
I just want to say one thing on that, because that person, in my opinion, as a business coach, the way I would be coaching them is 2 things. 1, find your downline to refer business to, right?
Yeah.
So you can then refer the business and take a referral fee. And then 2, you have to think, again, innovatively and forecast and project, how am I building my business and my pipeline for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, 8+ from now? You always need to be prospecting, because the market can change like that, as we have seen in the last
we've seen. Yeah.
Right. So I don't mean to challenge you, but I'm just.
No, I get it. I get it.
I just think that is a wrong mindset to have.
Well, that's the entrepreneurial in you. Some guys just like to make the certain amount a year and want no headache.
Right.
So I respect it either way. Yeah. But what we see is the guys who really do need to update their website, what they do is they pick one channel, let's say, or social media is an easy example, right? if you're going to consistently post on social media, Instagram and Facebook, why is that brand message not being carried back over to your website? Right. So again, I go back to the restaurants because that's what we seem to be really dived into in our business right now. We have 5 restaurants that we've been talking to this week alone that they came to us and they're entrepreneurs said, what are we going to do next? Let's invest, right? They're not scared. Right. They're not worried that they're going to have business. They say, what do we do next? And I said, okay, first thing, photo shoot, get your menus updated because now the menus have changed, gotten a lot smaller, curbside, all that stuff, right? Well, you're going to go post this curbside menu that looks awesome that we designed on social media. Why didn't you update your website?
Right.
Why is the picture of an item that you haven't served in 3 years still on your website, right? These are just little things that people don't think of. Right. We're part of the Forbes Agency Council, and they just published to ask for extra what's called expert panels. They ask our opinion on certain things, right? And one of them was branding. And what do you do to brand your product? And this kind of goes into it. And my comment was, a lot of these guys, you don't know what you don't know, but when you start a new brand or your existing brand, the fonts, the color scheme, the imagery you use, everything should always be consistent. And I get it. You don't have designers on staff and you're sending out proposals and contracts and images that are made in-house in 3 different fonts because it's a different day of the week. That's when you lose the brand consistency that's so easy to maintain. And what people always should be cognizant of is remember to protect your brand. And part of your brand is your website. Your website needs to follow everything you're doing. If your logo is red and your website is blue, you have a disconnect. So it's an easy fix. And what's the reason for it? And I think that, going back to it, a lot of people realize now because they're rushing to us to say, hey, we got to update. And it's a buzzword. They probably don't even know what they need to update, but this is what we're educating them on. We take a look at all of their channels and what they're doing and saying, your logo's green. Why are all your flyers blue? Why, what are you guys doing here? Right. And they say, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And, now we're cultured to make those changes going forward and make sure that they're consistently updating, pushing out content, because that's what people want to see.
You and I are in similar businesses in the following respects. We're both in the business of consistency. The more somebody sticks on with you, the more consistent they are, everything kind of elevates. And the ideas. And so you always stay ahead of the curve and innovative because you're using your website as the anchor of all of the information on all the social platforms that are moving so fast. You need that place where they sit that people can come.
Well, if you're a great networker and you hand out your business card, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to go to your website.
Right.
They can't go to your phone number or go to your email, right? They're going to go look at your website and then potentially social media channels as well, depending on how deep they dive. And if you don't have that consistency, you're losing the battle right there.
Right. I've always defined brand as what people say about you when you walk out of the room, right? You have that your internal and your external brand. And I agree with you. It's so important to do that. Yeah. But let's talk about consistency a little bit more because I'm a big believer that, a lot of times, if you go to my website, you'll see I say, think big, and I use that tagline again. And many people will ask me, what does that mean? Well, to me, what think big means is doing the small things every day consistently that compound to something big, right? That's the way to get to it. Same thing in your business, and I like your perspective. Is how is consistency defined when you have to, does that mean I have to update every day, once a week, once a month? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So, obviously changes by industry, but at a high level, consistency to us is when you have a plan of action and a marketing plan, and whether you update it monthly, quarterly, weekly, have that plan in place. So, for the restaurants, again, go back to them. We know that we need to post 5 to 10 times a week. So plan that ahead of time. You already know what's going to happen and stay consistent. If we want to do a tip of the day or an e-newsletter blast, always make sure we send it out on the right time on the right day, because then people can start expecting it. We just did a total rebrand John, you're aware of Wabi Country Club. And that was an eye-opening experience because what a 1974 brand that had the same logo, we just changed abruptly to a brand new modern logo. And it was just a W. And everyone said, are you crazy? What's W? What is W? And I said, exactly. Keep asking and try to find out, because once they realize what it was, you're ahead of the game of building a brand and a mark that people recognize. And we've been very successful within a year of branding that W so much that people know we're Wabi Club now. We dropped the country, and it's just repetitive. And the hardest part was, you had pre-existing membership and new membership, like kind of like old and new, and bringing them together and marketing to them was key, because it's not like a public company or a public accommodation where you can market to everyone within the zip code. Yeah. In this case, you have a set amount of members. How do you get to them, and what do you do? So every week our newsletter goes out at the same time. Every week our posts go out at the same time. Our special menu for the restaurants go out at the same time. Yeah. So now you're building that consistency, and you know what to brand. And also your staff is not overwhelmed. If you run a business where you're reactive instead of proactive, yeah, it's an uphill battle. And I tell everybody, you always start reactive because you're trying to figure it out. But until you get proactive, you really cannot be successful. Yeah. And, you're planning weeks ahead of time, because the chef needs to know what specials are in 2 weeks. The marketing team needs to take pictures. They need to price it out. They need to market it and build out the e-newsletter blast. You can't do that in 2 days. No. So, being on those schedules and timelines, and again, it changes by industry, is so important, because, how else are you running? You're always going to be running around with your head cut off. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I just want to layer on one additional thought, as far as it's important to be consistently predictable, like you're talking about, right? So kind of the same day for this, the same day for this. I think people miss predictability. When back in, 10 years ago, a certain show was on at a certain time. Totally. And it was predictable. Now, I don't know what channel, time, it doesn't matter, right? It does absolutely nothing matter. So, but I think people crave predictability, even though they maybe can't articulate it like that. I think they do, and I think it's so important. On that note, I think predictability and consistency with kind of coming up with a flow of somebody like yourself, I see it with clients of mine, those that are talking, 15 minutes a week, and saying, okay, hey, what do we got to do? What do we got to update? What do we got to do? So what's the time commitment for somebody on a continual basis working with you on the growth of their site? Yeah. So, weekly stand-ups or even what, I'm sorry, what was that? You would recommend. Oh, yeah. So, again, depending on the industry, at least once a month, I would say, at a minimum. But, most of our clients were on a weekly basis, if not every few days, that we're talking to figure out what's next, and what we're going to update or publish, because obviously we have to put in our pipeline to schedule it and make sure that their teams are ready to roll it out. Because everything's you're always relying on someone else, unfortunately, that will delay a timeline. So, that predictability you want to stick within, you always have to have that ready to go. I would say, at least, I would say probably a half hour at the most. We're talking to our clients on a weekly basis, because they know the drill now. In the beginning, it's a little more, but now even sometimes over email, here's what we have going on this week. What do we do? And we would push back on questions and get it all taken care of. But them just publishing it out, you go back to the marketing 101. Somebody sees your logo 7-8 times, they're going to remember it, right? And a lot of times our clients are not impulse purchase items. A Beyond Juice, it could be an impulse purchase because you want a smoothie right now, and you can have that. Right. Our manufacturing clients, or our home, our industrial construction clients, you're not, you might not be in the mood to spend $30 million on a building tomorrow, but in 6 months, who are the guys you're going to call, when you need them? Right. And consistently seeing that logo, you're just branding in the back of their mind. And that's part of the 15 minutes. So a lot of people, to your previous point, I don't really need to update my website that much because I'm on a project for 3 years and then I'll update my portfolio as it goes. Well, it's not just about that. It's about just getting your logo out there, giving them updates, showing how you're progressing in that building that you're building. Because someone is always going to say, hey, they did a great job on that building. I'm going to use them when a random project out of nowhere comes up. Yeah. And you know how it is as an entrepreneur. Every week there's a new opportunity you never dreamt of. Right. It's the importance of being a thought leader, being a trusted advisor, totally. being a content provider is so important. It's critical, and we are, human beings have a less attention span than a goldfish of about 8 seconds. Yeah. We've got to give them, and there's no way that you're going to remember the last, in your example, 3 years of what you've done.
You got to build it piece by piece, and it'll take you a third of the time than if you do it at the end.
Yeah.
Blake, last couple questions.
Yeah.
What have you been doing for fun these last 2 months, where we've all been kind of, we're all kind of, I think the governor came out and said we can, 10 people can, gather today. And
yes.
But what have you been doing for fun?
3 things. I'm very fortunate to have a son born 5 months ago, which changed my life because thank you. Yeah. I'm the workaholic guy, right? So I'm at the office all day. Yeah. This forced me to be home with him in the first few months, which was a blessing to me. But then when he starts crying and I run, and my superhero wife takes care of him, right? I bought a bike and I got into that, and then also golfing, as much as I can, because that was opened up early on. So that's my kind of stress relief. But it really hasn't been bad for us. I mean, it doesn't bother me as much. I'm not getting that like cooped in. I'm a little, allowed to go outdoors when the weather's nice. So it's not horrible. Yeah.
I have a 14 and 17-year-old, and it's been great. And I remember them when they were 5 weeks old, 5 months old, like it was yesterday. So what great time to have. Last question. Best piece of advice you would give somebody right now?
Reinvest in your business and yourself. Figure out long-term, think this is a short-term solution. So if you want to be successful, you're always thinking 10 years out. If you didn't have 6 months of runway built in for no revenue, you didn't learn from 2008. So, learn again now, right? Education is key, and figure out how you plan your pipeline for the next few years, because look at the stock market. These companies are planning 10 years out. That's how they value their companies. Yeah. If you don't think that same way, think big or go home, right? Right.
Right. Blake, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal email, blake@bmgmediaco.com, or through our website at bmgmediaco.com. I think it's on the bottom banner there for you. Easy. Call us, email us anytime. If you need any advice or anything like that, we're always available.
Right. Blake, you're always a pleasure to talk to. I appreciate, your wisdom, your guidance.
Thank you.
And I think it was spot on. And, for those listening who don't have a website, you should give Blake a call, or if you need to update yours, because it is more quintessential, in my opinion, than ever before.
Absolutely.
Stay safe, man. Have fun golfing.
You as well.
And
thank you.
Talk soon. All right.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
You too.